Welcome back to another Modern Learning Overhaul Series video. This is a pivotal shift towards the future of education. In this video, we talk about the third strand that we've been talking about in our series, and that is learning plans. And that is at the heart and soul of everything that is modern learning and how it makes things tick. So in this video, we are going to focus on not just the parts of the learning plan, but the overall pedagogy that's behind it. So we're not going to get totally in depth into that, but we are going to give you a general overview, give you some examples of the parts of the learning plan and how it's been useful and how it's been utilized in the classroom. So let's go ahead and get started in the Modern Learning Overhaul series. This is the breakout session number 3, developing learning plans. And this is an image from the first video of when we talked about modern learning architects and how the modern learning architect team was first introduced to it in our district and how it really encompasses all 4 of these things that we don't really consciously think about when we're talking about education. And that is the path, the pace, the time, and the place of education. Because usually all of these things are locked up. They're locked in place. So we have a path. So typically we have a path that a student is following is just a logical progression of learning. A pace is along the lines of, okay, well, we may have a couple students who are moving maybe a unit ahead, if we're lucky. And then we have a couple students who are maybe falling behind a unit or so, but really we're trying to keep the whole group together. And that's more for our ease. And so the learning plan really helps us in this process, and we'll talk about how. Time is really of the essence because we have time that we need to devote to the instructional pieces of our classroom. So how do we fit everything in? And again, learning plan is the key that unlocks a lot of this time management that we're trying to incorporate. And then place. Does place really matter when learning is everywhere? So that's where we are going to unlock all 4 of these pieces with the learning plan. It will take time. It will take a lot of effort and a lot of energy on your part and my part to understand the process of the learning plan development, but it's a really rewarding process nonetheless. So here's a snapshot of what the learning plan looks like and how we start off with, we have just basic information at the top where we're always relating everything back to a standard. Because we need to really have a scope and a sequence of what we're covering as an educator and as a district. So we have everything is linked back to a standard. Now, a standard is pretty hard to understand for a student and frankly for a teacher at times when we're trying to teach a concept. So a standard needs to be broken down. So we break that down into a learning progression. So from a learning progression, we develop learning targets. Those learning targets are I can statements. I can do this at this level. I can do this at a developing level. And those relate back to our proficiency scales. And if you've worked with Marzano, which we do as a district, we've done proficiency scales before, you know emerging, developing, and proficient already. And then we can go a step further and take it to that level 4, which is that deeper understanding of the content. And then we have an evidence section where we're ultimately trying to get to where we demonstrate with our students an evidence of learning that they understand the concept, and here's how they understand it. And here's the proof that they understand it. And they can take ownership and validation in that step. Then we have underneath all this, which is sort of a collection of all this information, we have a learn about it section, a practice it section, and an evidence section. So let's start breaking down each one of those a little bit further. But before we do, let's take a look at this little wheel down here. This is one of my favorite graphics that was developed by Doug Enders. And if we talk about the learn about it section, we can start at any part of this wheel, and it keeps on going when we're talking about a concept. We learn about something, and then we ask ourselves, am I ready to move on? And if I'm not, what do I still need? Okay, if I still need it, what do I need to do to practice it? If I practice it, I need to learn about it. Once I learn about it, what else do I need? If I'm good, then what's next? So it's this constant flow of education. Learning is constant. Time is now a variable. Time doesn't matter when we have a learning plan. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to unlock that time piece with a learning plan as the key. So that's what we're going to start diving into. Here again, we're looking at some of the pieces that go into a learning plan. We have a pre and post assessment, still important to gather data so we can track a student's progress along the way. so we can quickly see who needs some extra help or extra assistance, who can bypass some of this stuff altogether. If they really understand a certain level, why are we going to force them to do what everybody else is doing? So developing high-level pre and post assessments are really important. So again, maybe another video for another day. Proficiency levels are connected to proficiency scales, which maybe your school is working with proficiency scales through Marzano or the Danielson model. I don't know, but these are related to our proficiency scales and our continuum of learning here at Eastern. Learning targets that are written in kid-friendly language. This is the big piece that that really spoke to me, because you actually have the opportunity to have your students involved in the learning progression process. You're not just telling them what they're learning; they are actually able to help dissect a standard and unpack it, is what it's called. So you can get them involved in unpacking a standard and say, I can do this. Okay, and that really empowers them, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower them and instill a level of empowerment into their culture, their student culture. So learning targets that are written in kid-friendly language, and then evidence of learning and for tracking of students and teachers to communicate effectively. We're keeping this line of communication open when they complete this evidence and how they've demonstrated it, moving it from developing to proficient or emerging from to development. We are, again, trying to move our way up this score. So let's talk about each of these sections. The Learn About It section consists of asynchronous resources for students to learn about a specific topic to deepen understanding. So this is their initial first round. Now, maybe you have instruction that's built into the classroom, direct instruction. This does not replace what you do in the classroom. This only enhances, and that's one thing that I had the misunderstanding when I first saw learning plans, was that this was replacing everything. It's not. What it's doing is enhancing what we're already doing. So we take maybe some direct instruction that we've already done or small group work, and then we have a group that might be working on their learning plan. And again, I might break that down in another video, that just understanding how these learning plans fit into the different learning models and methods. That'd be a great video. So I'm going to mark that down in my notes. We have a Learn About It section that we have videos, we have articles, podcasts, infographics, tutorials. There might be songs, anything that we can introduce that hits multiple forms of intelligences or multiple forms of education. So kinesthetic activities, so ways that we can get students to learn initially the content. So this is our first pass at the content, just trying to get them to learn it. Then we roll into this practice it section. Once they have maybe a pretty good grasp, they think they got it, then we want ways to get them hands-on or virtually working with the contents, which is practice it. Practice it consists of interactive activities for them to deepen their understanding of the initial understanding of their content. So we have partner activities, we have Nearpod activities, we have interactive like Khan Academy videos. So anything that has them actually doing stuff with the information that they've just learned about in the Learn About It section. That is the practice it. So they learn about it, they practice it, and here is the kicker. This is where we start grading. This is the evidence section. This is where we're trying to figure out, okay, if they really understand something, they're in this proficient level, they're at a level 3, they really understand something. The evidence section consists of ways in which they can demonstrate their mastery. And this right here is not the end-all be-all ways that they can show assessment. They can actually, and this is where you need to be able to let go as a teacher, if they can demonstrate their understanding of a concept in a totally different way, you got to be open to it. You got to be flexible. So maybe it's project-based learning, maybe it's a Flipgrid assignment, maybe it's a screencastify or an assessment. It could be a test. Maybe that's the best way that we can assess. Maybe that's the best way they want to assess their knowledge. We have some students who want to take a test, and that's okay. So we want to just open up their interest levels and have them as motivated as possible to be able to demonstrate their understanding of a concept. So developing learning plans starts with this idea of How can I gather information? How can I process information? And how can I show information? So here is a snapshot of building a learning plan step by step, just the highlight reel of this process. So step one, unpack the standards. Step two, identify learning targets. These are the I can statements that students are trying to reach. We are doing this in kid-friendly language so they can understand it, so parents can understand it, so you can understand it as a teacher. Step three, create progression of learning. So how does that fit into the proficiency scale or the scale of learning that you've developed as a district? Step four, find and create learn about it resources. Step five, the practice it resources. Step six, opportunities for evidence of learning. And then create pre and post assessments. These should be directly tied to your evidence of learning or your learn about it section. So it should all fit, it should all flow. And then create enrichment opportunities for those students who go above and beyond. And then also be flexible and open to new ideas. Some of the best ideas and the best way to demonstrate information or demonstrate their mastery comes from students. So being open to it is amazing, an amazing opportunity. So we are framing our journey here by understanding that we need to practice it. Well, we need to learn about it. We need to practice it. We need to ask ourselves, are we ready? And if we're not, what do I need? Learning is constant. Time is now the variable. So next up in our video series, we're going to talk about, okay, we have all of these different digital ecosystems, or I'm sorry. So next up, we are going to start talking about digital ecosystems. And a digital ecosystem is just a way that we are going to collect all these digital resources, the learning plans, the professional development, everything that's been created, and we're going to house it in one location that is easily accessible by everybody so that we can access this at any time and be as transparent as possible. Because we want to have open lines of communication during this modern learning shift. We want to shift the paradigm and shift our thinking towards a way of modern learning. And that starts with a commitment from both parents, students, and teachers. Okay, so this is Josh Korb. Thanks for watching. If you want any more information, try checking out info.joshuakorb.com, and I'll catch you next time.